Let's be honest here, the Albanese government, Labour, they've got some troubles of their own when it comes to policies, particularly energy, which has basically been a millstone around their neck for their entire first term of government. Anthony Albanese fronted ABC's Insiders this morning, and he dodged questions about energy prices and what happened to that $275. Take a look at this.
Household rebate that you extended in the budget runs out at the end of this year. What happens then? Do prices go up?
Well, we very consciously, David, have provided now 3 lots of energy relief.
But I'm asking at the end of this year, what happens? Do prices go up when that runs out?
We've dealt with that in a practical way.
If that international pressure is still there, you might have to extend the rebate beyond this year?
Well, no, what we do is we focus on the budget, on immediate needs.
I'm asking I think a lot of households will want to know what's going to happen to their power bill and what happens at the end of this year. The government hasn't produced any sort of modelling or indication as to what's going to happen with energy prices if you're returned.
What we are providing is $150 relief. We're extending that relief.
The prices, what happens to prices at the end of this year?
From that. David, what we have done is to provide that support.
There's no modelling,
there's no processing, and I've told you, David.
Just one more time, will prices go up at the end of this year?
David, what we will have is that $150 of relief that we're providing for people now, the 3rd lot of relief.
Cam, it strikes me as pretty shocking that even at this late date here, Labour doesn't have any good answers about what has happened to power prices and what they're going to do about them.
Yeah, I asked that same question to Chris Bowen, the Energy Minister, when I bumped into him at an event in Fowler a couple of hours ago, James, and it was very much the same. They go straight to talking about Peter Dutton. The opposition leader even suggesting today, and look, we know both sides are a little bit bruised or wary of the risk of committing a dollar figure after what happened with the $275 promise in 2022 from Labor. Peter Dutton's now suggesting there might be a percentage target or a range perhaps that the coalition looks to target when it comes to how much power prices will come down for people rather than committing a dollar figure for it. We're told that analysis is coming in the next couple of days, so I think that'll be one to watch for. At the end of the day, James, people want to know where their household bills are going. It's been up for some years now. Are they going to come down? How much are they going to come down? When are they going to come down? And neither side is really putting a key benchmark to that at this point.
Yeah, no, I think they're both feeling pretty burnt about this. But Cam, I also want to get you to walk us through this referendum the opposition leader keeps talking about recognizing Indigenous people in the Constitution and extending terms to 4-year fixed terms for government. This seems like a bit of an odd thing to do because it's not really going to bring down anybody's power prices. It's not going to fix grocery bills. In a cost of living campaign, this seems like a very inside baseball kind of Canberra Beltway sort of thing.
I'm very surprised we're talking about referendums, James, because we know that after The Voice, Peter Dutton noted that he didn't think there was really an appetite for a referendum anytime soon. Since then, though, in those 18 months or so, he's floated or lent into the proposed idea of 3 potential referendums, one on deportation, one on, now we're talking about 4-year terms, and one also on Indigenous recognition in the Constitution. Not, by the way, committing to take any of those to the campaign, whereas if they win the coalition, those referendums will happen. That's not the promise here. He's simply leaning into the idea that if there was bipartisan support on any of those, that's when he might support a referendum. The Prime Minister, keep in mind, he's ruled out holding any referendums in the next term of Parliament, no matter what they're on. There is bipartisan support for 4-year terms, James, and I think there'll be a lot of support for that in the community even as well. But it's just not a top 10, maybe even not a top 50 issue for voters. So it might get a little mention here or there, but I don't think that referendums will get a serious look in this next term of government.
Yeah, and finally, Cam, before I let you go, I just want to ask you very quickly here. One of the things that we've seen Labour really leaning into here is trying to get influencers to, back the campaign or going on, various podcasts and like Abby Chatfield. And we even had this bizarre moment in Parliament this week.
Yeah.
Delulu. Can use it in a sentence.
I must be Delulu, but I feel like he was giving me the eyes.
Delusional.
Perfect.
Boom.
Yep.
Like
Okay, next one.
Peter Dutton on nuclear power costs. Delulu.
I dare you to drop that in the
I can
speech.
do that?
Delulu with no Salulu.
We've got budget week next week. Listen up. Be a little in-joke between the 3 of us and all of your
At the punters.
crew.
The three of us and the punters.
Well, Mr. Speaker, they are Delulu with no Salulu.
Cam, this strikes me as really embarrassing. What do you think, though? I mean, you know, you're in a slightly younger demographic than I am, perhaps I'll admit. This seems like it's a bit condescending, you would think, to kind of the under 30 voters. What's your take on it?
I'm just under 30, James, and I had no idea what any of that meant, so I had to ask one of the younger crew in our office to decipher it for me as well. But look, I mean, this is the new age of campaigning, isn't it? It's TikTok, it's memes, it's slang and lingo that younger people use. I think a lot of the people that get these sort of images online or listen to these podcasts might not even be of voting age, so that's one thing to be aware of. But look, it is, I suppose, an area where not as many people are getting their news through the radio, through television, through print medium. It's through social media. So the leaders probably both know they've got to get to them somehow, James. And if it's one extra vote by making a good gag, Jason Clare's tried a few of them this morning at least, maybe that's one vote that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, and finally I want to ask you, too, about just all of these sorts of heckling incidents and the bird dogging and all of that. We saw that young man ask the Prime Minister about immigration. We saw all of the bird dogging of Peter Dutton at these events. Is this going to change the way that our politicians, both the opposition leader and the Prime Minister, campaign? And one of the things, you know, Cam, that always strikes me about Australian politics, having covered the White House a long time ago in the United States, is the relative ease with which our politicians, you know, mix with the people and don't have these huge bubbles of motorcades and so on. Are you worried that we're going to see more of that kind of bubble develop around our politicians?
Yeah, look, I was in the room for both of those when they happened to Peter Dutton, James, and I asked him whether he would change his strategy as a result. He didn't say yes, he didn't say no. Clearly, though, even in our experience today, that security, which is already tight, has tightened further. You mentioned it's one of the great things of Australian democracy, but election campaigns. Leaders go to pubs, they go to cafes, they walk the street, they go to community fairs, and you can stand shoulder to shoulder, talk with your leader of your nation, perhaps. And you'd hate to see any of that scaled back. Thankfully, it's been a protest-free day today, James, but security that was already tight, I can say, I think is tightening still. And there are questions being asked about how on earth those protesters managed to get so close, shoulder to shoulder, with Peter Dutton at one stage.
Cam Redden, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining me. Stay dry out there on a drizzly George Street.